You are listening to Kickspot.
All right, and we're back here at the Kickspot, and we have Comb here, Chris, aka Comb, and what we were talking about before the break was some of Trump's economic policies and what his thoughts were. So let's just continue on that topic. You had brought up some economic policies that you do agree with. Are there any more that you like or dislike?
I mean, I think just in general, he's pro-business. You know, I'm sure he's done many other, changed many other policies or created many new policies. I can't remember all of them. You know, but just overall, I know that he's definitely helps the business in general. You know, small business, large businesses, to do business, to do business in the U.S. versus taking it elsewhere.
So from all the listeners, you have an Asian man who was born in Thailand, that's Cambodian, that talks about some of these pro-Trump policies, and I'm sure there are people like, man, this guy really wants to wear a MAGA hat or something. So the real question is, do you like Trump?
Well, let's put it this way. If he was my neighbor, I probably would not like him. I would not invite him over for a drink. But as a president and the way he runs it as like a business, I do like that part.
Is it because you're in the financial sector?
Not just because of that. Well, okay, so because of what he's done or what he's been trying to do, that benefits all of us. It's not
benefits us in a financial gain,
right,
and an economic gain,
tax wise,
right?
You know, having the stock market and the economy continue to go up and stay strong, that helps everyone's 401ks. Everyone has investments and everything. You know, that's a huge key to success of any country is their economy, right? And so having the economy continue to grow and prosper is definitely a huge part in a president's job, in my opinion. You know, but like I said, I'm not a huge, giant proponent of him. I don't wear any hats or anything, because when he opens his mouth, you know, it's a whole nother story, and it's a shame because I think if he would learn how to, you know, handle himself better, you know, to say the least, and not so immaturely, yeah, he could be a much more successful, much more liked president. But because of the way he handles himself, some people just can't stand it, and will never look past, you know, the words, the way he handles himself, the way he speaks. But you know, everything else he does in the background is actually, you know, to help our country. You know, so I believe in
so help our country in an economic sense.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
It's crazy because, like, I understand that, but at the same time, if he was to run a business and run it the way that he wants to, I feel like he would be shut down.
It could be.
Like, he's pro-business, but at the same time, he won't even follow, like, you know, some of the compliance or policy.
Right. No, he does seem to like to push the envelope and, you know, maybe not follow every rule. But, you know, I know many friends that are in business, that are self-employed, and, you know, those guys will find any way to gain an advantage, whether it's tax-wise, whether it's, you know, business-wise of some sort. That's kind of the businessman mentality. But how far you push it, I guess, is the question, you know. You know, I mean, again, I you know, I'm not the most proud to call him my president, but I'm happy to know that I know what he's thinking at all times. That may be good or bad, but I'd rather know than not know. Most of the lifelong politicians, they will tell you everything you want to hear, but what's actually true is a whole nother story, you know? So I think we got the lesser of most other evils.
That's that's up for debate.
Yeah, of course.
The listener,
It's America.
It is. Migs, do you have anything that you want to talk about? I want to transition into some of the current policies. But
No, go ahead.
Okay, so during COVID, there was the CARES Act that was released, a $2 trillion economic relief that came out. What was your thoughts on the policy, and if there were any changes that you would have liked to make, if there were any?
I think the policy was timely. Actually, if you look back, when the policy was finally approved by Congress and everybody else, both Democrats and Republicans, that was the turning point in the stock market. That was pretty much when it hit bottom, and then it turned around from there. Overall, it was needed. Obviously with the virus, no one knew where the heck it was going to take us, how devastating it was going to be, and if the government didn't do something about it, it could be in another Great Depression, potentially, because who knows? Everyone losing their jobs, not having any income, it'll drive people crazy. So, that's definitely a very welcome decision that they made.
Coming from because you're obviously pro small business or business in general, there was the PPP, the Paychecks Protection Program loan that was given. Talk to us a little bit more about that. If you liked that program, or
I think overall it's helped. I've had many clients actually reach out to me asking about it. I don't handle them directly, but I directed them, to the appropriate people that did. But it obviously helped. Now what I hear is whatever money the government gives them, they must spend at least 75% on employees, payroll. So, obviously that keeps the employees, people, to receive a paycheck, and the businesses can stay running and stay alive until, we recover from this virus. So, overall, it's positive. But obviously, it's not perfect. You've heard the LA Lakers and
Receiving one.
Yeah, and many others. Was it Shake Shack or whoever?
Yep.
These guys shouldn't have applied, number one. Number two, they shouldn't have received it. I hear a lot of them, due to public backlash, they returned it. But I don't understand how the heck that slipped through, But no, overall, it's kept, I'm sure, lots of businesses in business, and we need that. We can't have half the businesses gone by the time we recover and the economy reopens, because that's just going to set us back further.
So unemployment rate is at an all-time high. It's I believe one out of every 4 Americans are unemployed. Our national debt has increased to around $25 trillion.
Yep.
So crazy to even say trillion.
Can't fathom it.
Yeah, and it's obviously going to go higher as businesses or economy within the opening of the economy. They're starting to open up. Not necessarily the demand is there.
Right.
On top of that, too, unemployment benefits were also offered, which federal would give somebody $600 a week. And then here in California, up to $450 a week as well, which is a total of over $1,000 for someone to become unemployed.
Yep.
If this program really worked, though, if I'm someone that was making less money, why would I not force myself to become unemployed?
It's a very good question. I've heard from a lot of friends and business owners that they're having problems trying to get their employees to come back to work.
Yeah.
It is definitely something that the government needs to address. I actually heard talk just the last couple of days that maybe they'll start giving incentives to employees to work. So you go back to work and we'll give you like a bonus. So
Like a signing bonus.
yeah, something like that.
From coming back to work.
Hey, if they're paying less doing that, I guess it could work, right? It's just reversing it now. Instead of free money, now you got to earn it, but you're getting extra money to go to work, you know? But yeah, no, I've heard that, and it is definitely a problem. It's making people lazy, you know? But another business I've heard, what they say is they start offering, as they're starting to reopen, they're offering their positions back to those, you know, employees. And if in a week or two they don't come back, they'll start rehiring other people. And so what happens is those people that, you know, decide to stay home and just, you know, be lazy, now when the free ride is over, they're not going to have a job. So that's, you know, a smaller incentive, but at least, you know, it's a way for employers to try and, you know, get things back on track.
Yeah, my perception on the PPP loan is a little bit different. I agree with the fact that it was great that it was released fast.
Yeah.
The timeliness was great. The fact that they ran out of money and they didn't really think through what the amount should be allocated towards. So, for example, 75% had to be for payroll.
Yeah.
And the rest is utilities or rent.
Mm-hmm.
But this was during COVID, which means that if anybody opens up, they're going to put new policies in place. So you have to have less people within the business. So if you do have a demand, you're obviously going to make less money. You have to put new policies in place for the safety of the employees and also the customers that are coming in.
Right.
But one of the funds that wasn't allocated was towards those policies. I mean, what is a new business owner going to have to spend money on? Are they going to spend money on buying masks for every single employee, throwing that away, gloves, sanitation?
Right.
And that wasn't even a factor.
Right.
The other thing I disagree with the PPP policy is that after they ran out of funds, in order for them to even have it forgiven, you had to keep people on payroll.
Right.
And so if you don't have, if you didn't get approved of the loan yet, you're still waiting for it, and the economy's down and there's no demand for your business to open up, you're just paying all these people money, hoping that you would get this loan and then have it forgiven. And till this day, I know people that haven't received a loan. So they're spending their own hard-earned money, and eventually they're just going to have to shut down. And then who reaps the benefit? They're unemployed, so they take advantage of the unemployment benefits. And so that's where I think that even though it was released fast, I don't think that they really thought through of the repercussion of what was actually truly going to happen.
Right.
I just, Migs was here yesterday, and I was talking to a client that I was helping out, and the shady thing that they were doing was they were taking, they have a few LLCs, limited liability, and they applied for the loans. They got the loan, and what they're going to do is they're going to dissolve the company. So they took $350,000 from the government, free money, and they're going to dissolve it, and they're going to file bankruptcy, and they're going to take that money. So they didn't there's a lot of these situations which I wish that instead of, hey, I get it, because, during when the market crashed, during the housing crisis and all that, they're like, I think it was President Bush waited, I think 6 months or something like that to get a stimulus package. And it was already too late. The housing market crashed. And I get the timeliness of that. This was released immediately. But I think that it should have been thought through a lot more. And it's unfortunate.
I agree with you. There's lots of holes, but I think in the moment, I think they started discussing it, and within about a week, maybe a week and a half or so, they were approved by all parties. But I think they had so little time. Yeah, they just had to get something out. Obviously, it wasn't perfect.
Well, it wasn't a guarantee to the banks, though. So I get the bank's perspective. It wasn't like, okay, so what are the implications. If I give all this money away, then are we guaranteed to get backing from the government? And that was such a gray area for all these banks.
Well,
and that's why they weren't giving it.
There was no policy and procedure that was placed for the banks. It was just take the application, and then let's see if they get approved or not. And then if we have the money, we'll release it to whoever gets approved.
Yeah.
And it goes, they have the certain order of it, right? Because in the industry I'm on, large corporation, right? Fortune 500 company, we deal with, car dealerships, right? Like we were able to take care of all of those customers, our car dealerships, like that. I think we were, whoever applied, I think 98% of the application was approved and we were able to disperse the money to them. That wasn't, and those are corporations, right? That wasn't the case for a regular small business owner that really needed the money, right? To stay afloat, because they had to go to a bank and wait for a response from the government, and see if they're going to get that funds. I remember talking to Glenn and Franco, right? Like they said, dude, it's such a show in here where like
I gotta edit your. Sorry about that.
It's just
So when this goes on radio,
it's chaotic.
I have to actually edit the thing, so his mouth is gonna look weird on on YouTube and all these things, and I had to do that last time. So let me just apologize.
It was chaotic. Sorry, it was chaotic where there was no policies in place, and they didn't really know what to do. They didn't know how to kind of ease the customer in, because obviously they were getting calls, hey, what's the update of my application? What's the update of my application, right? Like, I think that was, my riff regarding the PPP is it was one of those things where you had a great intention, but your execution, and this is a lot of people's problems, right? Like, there's always great intentions, but there's no execution to your plan. So it's like, and then you're actually making the situation worse, because I get that you were trying to help, but to get to the end goal, you didn't execute correctly. So now we gotta clean up the mess. So it's double the work, right?
The over promise under deliver.
The over promise under deliver concept.
Yeah. Now there's another wave of a stimulus package that is in effect. Whether or not it's gonna be passed or not, we're not 100% sure. In my opinion, it looks like it's not gonna get passed, but you just never know with the economy, and once unemployment hits even higher, they might just say, we need to release a stimulus package.
I think it's there's gonna be a demand based on right now with the riots and the looting, and then I think the government's gonna use that as a way to calm people down, but we'll see.
Yeah, so what is your take on the
stimulus package?
Yeah. So what are the regulations behind the new stimulus package? Do we know?
I don't know many details.
It's like $1,000.
Besides just more free money,
Yeah, $1,000 to somebody that makes $75,000 or less. Before it was $1,200 if you made $99,000 or less, and then if you made a little bit more than that, there was a percentage that was taken off. Subtracted. And it's the same concept as $1,000, and then you made more. Within the fine lines, I think it was like an 1,800-page document or something like that. Something crazy.
Yeah,
Within the fine lines, in this one, you can actually pay undocumented immigrants.
Yeah.
Which the first stimulus package didn't cover.
Right.
Also within the policy, it is to pay back healthcare workers or frontline workers, so pharmacists. I'm guessing retail stores and all that would get a back pay, I think, from January.
Wow.
Yeah, so a lot of money, and I think that's what a lot of the Republicans disagree with.
Right.
Whereas the Democrats are for it.
I think they got to be careful in giving away too much more. I mean, it's going to make everyone's lives better, but our government, is going to drown in debt. I mean, it's going to continue to make everyone lazy, and looks like, this first week of kind of reopening around here, traffic is all over the place again.
People want to go out.
Yes. So, I mean, we don't know how slow or quick the economy will reopen, but, if we jump the gun again, we're just going to put ourselves in a deeper hole, country-wise. Everyone else will be happy because they got free money and they can go spend it and enjoy life again. But you gotta be careful that we repeat the same thing we did the first time.
So I know you're heavily into stocks, though, but if people are spending money, wouldn't that be a positive within the stock market? So
Well, it
it's
is.
interesting that you're saying that.
Well,
That we should be careful, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I know we're all heavily invested into stocks.
Right. Well, there's a fine line, right? Because if you give too much, the stock market will do well, the economy will do well, but we can't keep building up $1 trillion in debt every 2 months. Right? I mean, eventually, just like any household, if your household is bringing in $500,000 a year, and you have, I don't know, I'm just gonna pick a number of, $5,000, $10,000 in debt that you have to pay every month, and now all of a sudden you take on another 10,000. At some point, that ship is gonna sink because you're not gonna make enough. You can't afford to pay all your debt. So I mean, that's kind of, I think, where we're at. I mean, the market's done, as we all know, market's done really well to rebound, and that's partly because of all the stimulus and all the things the government has done. But the government does too much, it's going to start hurting us as a country as a whole. We'll feel great for a while until until things blow up. So
Your thoughts?
I mean, yes, it's gonna be the same thing, right? Like it's gonna. I just feel like it's, when is enough, to be giving people free cash, right? Because what people don't realize is that free cash is gonna run out. So what happens when it runs out? You're gonna ask the government for more free cash, right? So it's like, and that's where some of the stigma of, the government should be there for us, but it has to be a calculated risk, because yes, we want the entire country to be spending and buying to stimulate the economy. Completely understand. However, once those cash runs out, stocks, it's gonna drop. We don't need a pandemic for it to drop again, So right now we're getting hit with like three crazy things: pandemic, now riots, right, and racism, and then we have to think about where our country's future is gonna be 6 to 12 months from today, economically and socially. Right, so those are the things. The thing is, and this is why I texted you that long thing last night, right? Because I was putting everything in perspective, which we'll probably cover in a different episode. The one thing that with everything that's happening that we don't have as a country is a good leader, and that's as simple as that.
But we talked about he makes great business decisions.
I understand.
Uncle Cole.
I understand. Uncle, I completely agree with Uncle Home when it comes to trusting Trump on how to run our country as far as economically, and financially. Completely. Yeah. I mean, I was reading that essay from someone, what he's done to cut taxes for businesses and for consumers and help taxpayers be able to live a little bit longer and stretch their money out. Completely agree with that. However, that's not what we need, right? That's one essential piece of our livelihood is the economy. There's 2, 3, 4, a million pieces of our livelihood that we're depending on a leader to sum everything up for us and in order for us to feel safe, right? Remember, I was so mad last night. I was sitting over there watching that and I texted you that long thing and you're like, what the hell is this? You're like, what is this? And I'm just like, bro, like I'm thinking these items and I'm just like, we just don't have that voice. We don't have that voice. There's a voice for economy, Trump, right? There's that very, very strong voice. I want to tax China. I'm going to stand up against China because they've been taking advantage of us for too long, like what Uncle Kom was saying, which is factual, right? However, that's a third of our problem. What about the other two things that are going on right now? Where are you at? Right? So that's my issue.
Yeah, but specifically with this new stimulus package, I mean, if it does get passed, like I just want to say I'm all for people spending the money.
Oh yeah, so am I.
I mean, what really happens when people start printing money is in inflation. So your goods are going to be a lot higher. And
our cost is
and-
going to skyrocket.
Yeah. Your Starbucks is going to be worth $10.
Right.
But
It's already worth that.
Yeah, but if you're going to get it, you might as well spend it early instead of saving it and getting less for what it's worth.
Right.
Well, I don't think anyone's going to spend it, like later. I think people are so cooped up, they're going to spend it right away.
Well,
Right.
here's what happened when a stimulus package was sent out before the housing crisis. A lot of people actually saved that money. They were unsure of the economy, so they decided that they were gonna pay off debts, or they were just gonna save that money. But in reality, what that did was it actually raised inflation a little bit, and so they got less money. So
Right.
for any listeners out there, if you get a stimulus package, I'm saying
Spend it right now.
it all, spend it all, and then we're gonna talk about stocks and maybe spend it on some type of stocks. But when I mean, I just see it rotating. Like,
Spend
so
it
if
on
you're looking
sneakers.
from a business perspective, spend it on the right companies. Make it generate some income for you, and then that'll hold you off for a little bit. Just make smart decisions. I'm saying I shouldn't say this, but I'm saying don't save it. Get less money than what it's worth.
So don't put it on a
But you
savings
could
account.
spend it by investing as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
Don't just spend it on cars and clothes and
Sneakers.
things that are
Absolutely.
depreciating. You can spend it on things that appreciate. and
Absolutely.
they're
Spend
good
it on the
future.
necessities. With the remainder, invest it wisely. Don't just spend it just because you got that free money, because it's not going to last, and this bubble's just going to pop soon,
Yep.
and our economy is going to go down
Don't
the
spend
trash.
it.
So-
Don't spend it on a Hellcat.
And remember, when the housing market crashed, there were rich investors that made a lot of money during that crisis.
Why is
So
that?
be one of those people and take advantage of the market when it does crash.
When it's on sale.
And when it's on sale. All right. So we're gonna talk more about that when we come back with Chris, aka Comb.
You are listening to Kickspot.